that are really being pushed by the new national coordinator. One of them, which we don't have film on, is coaches. And I'm in the process of visiting all our schools and talking to them. The NCAA wants coaches in the coaching box. Some people say, why do they worry about it? I'm just coaching. I get all that. But they've made it clear that officials that don't enforce it this year are not going to have an opportunity to work the NCAA tournament. So you're going to see a more emphasis on keeping coaches in the coaching box and assistant coaches sitting down. And we've got a couple in this league that are my buddies. I've already talked to. I said, you got to sit down. You stand up and do your job, but you have to sit down. You can't stay up the whole time. So if you see more warnings early in the year, even if you see a technical foul, you'll know this is not driven by me. It's driven by the NCAA and what we're trying to do. Let's do the film, Brian. The other tweak we have is flopping. The Rules Committee is adamant about taking flopping out of the game. There's a couple of different kinds. The head bob. We'll show that again. When a player comes off, even if there's slight contact, trying to exaggerate and sell something by throwing the head back is going to be a technical foul. We've had the warnings the last couple of years. They aren't happy with how that works. They've made it an automatic technical foul. Here's another example of the head bob. Totally unnecessary, just trying to fool the ref, sell the play, whatever you want to call it, but these are going to be instantly penalized. One shot technical foul, ball goes back out of bounds at the spot of play. Another example is the shooters that fall without contact. Trying to kick your leg out, faking it, falling after a shot, it's going to be automatic. So for example, on this play, as soon as the ball clears the net, you got a technical foul, Blue will get the ball out on the baseline after one free throw. The last one, and going to be the hardest ones, on the plays in the post. When you have an offensive player penetrating, a defensive player trying to hold his space, draw a charge, those are going to be difficult decisions. What we are teaching is if the offensive player stops on contact, you then fall down, that's a flop. For example, in this play, contact, offensive player stops, then when he falls, now he continues backwards. But that wasn't enough contact for that reaction from the post. If the offensive player hits him and continues through the offensive player as he goes down, now you've got a block charge situation and not a flop. But this is going to be highly controversial. You're going to see a lot of it early. I was just talking to Coach Beard, and since they're in 5th grade, their shooting coaches and AU coaches and high school coaches sell the play. So it's going to be a habit some of these players are going to have to break, but as good as they are, they can do it. Okay, Brian? The next plays that we're really focusing on are these. Body contact, bumping the cutters, and bumping the ball handlers. The way the game's played today with so much high ball screens, so much pick and roll off the top, so much dribble handoff, we have to stop the defender from being able to do this to an offensive player. Another example, as he starts his drive, he jumps out with his hands down, checks him with his leg and body and chest. We want that stopped. You're going to see a heavy push on it early to allow the game to open up. A lot of our teams run a motion offense, and if you're allowed to chuck the cutters and the shooters, they're at a real disadvantage. So look for more of these type of enforcements early. Another example there, same type play. Secondary defender jumping out, boom. We want an instant whistle. Go to the next section, Brian. Just another example of how we have to allow the offensive player to make his move short of contact. Screens, as we talked about, with the way we play the dribble handoff, the high ball roll, it's inherent that we set legal screens. In this case, hands the ball off, never becomes stationary, clips the guy with his leg. On a dribble handoff, the offensive player who's released the ball has no rights. In order to make contact, even as he's running on through with a defensive player, he must come set or avoid the contact. That's hard. A lot of coaches don't like it because he said, what else is he supposed to do? He's running his play, but that's the rule. Another example here is trying to screen off a cutter. It's another big point of emphasis. If we allow these illegal screens, it allows them to get open for wide open three-pointers and a real defensive advantage. That's our major tweaks for the year. As I said, with our new national leadership, I see more emphasis on enforcing all of this. I think you're going to see the Rules Committee next year, when it is a rules change year, really address some of the problems we've had the last few years that I've talked about. So I'm excited about where we're going. Any questions as we start the season?
Okay, remember we've got handheld mics for you.
Yes, sir.
We've got one to the left here. Oh,
Back here first,
oh,
Alfred.
okay.
Hey, Curtis, Mark Neely from ESPN.
Yeah, Mark.
Let me go back to the flopping. Let me give you a hypothetical play because it'll answer a lot of the questions I have. Say a player goes up, shoots the ball, kicks his leg out, flops. Ball goes in. Does the shot count?
Yes.
Shot does count.
Yes.
He gets a Class B technical.
Yes.
One shot. Same play, puts it up. He misses the shot. His team rebounds the ball. Flop. Play stops. Free throw for the other team. Do they keep possession?
If they had possession at the time of the whistle, yes. If the ball's loose in a rebounding situation, nobody has control, then we'll go to the arrow.
Okay, the arrow. And then last part of it, if somebody were crazy enough to get 2 of these Class B floppings in the same game, would they be removed from the game?
Takes 3 Class Bs to get ejected.
3, not 2.
Yes.
Very good. Thanks, Curtis.
You know, going on down those lines, we've had people ask, well, what if a guy flops and my guy's getting ready to go for a layup? Are you going to kill it and take the layup away? What we're saying is no, let the play get to a stopping point. So if you're guarding me on defense, you flop, I'm going to go in and score, and then I'm going to call the technical foul. So it can be a real double whammy, so to speak. But we don't want to penalize a player who's legal because somebody else does something illegal. Yes.
On dribble handoffs, one thing I've noticed is the defender purposely running into the DHO guy. Should that always be called a foul? How do you tell your officials to officiate that?
The way the rule's written and what the Rules Committee have said is once they hand off, they have no rights. So if a defender, now I'm not going to tell you if I hand off and run this way and you run into me, but if I'm continuing on my path after I hand off and make any contact, even if I'm trying to avoid him, it's going to be an illegal screen.
Got one in on the 4th row in the middle.
Cole Carmody, 24/7 Sports. You talked about the coach's box. Is that going to be a game-by-game situation? Is there going to be warnings with that, or is that going to be something they talk about before the game?
Well, it's all of the above. I'm telling the coaches as we go around now, we've got a couple in this league that love to walk around. They're not bothering the referees. They're really not doing anything but coaching, but they're clearly out of the box. The Rules Committee wants that addressed. We might tell them one time, hey, back up. You got to stay in the box. Sometimes the coaches that I know that are abusive of it, I'll tell the assistant coach, if he gets out tonight, you're getting a technical foul. You know, so there's different ways to handle it. But we'll probably tell them once, stay in the box. The second time we'll do an official warning. The third time it's a technical foul. Now the assistant coaches are going to have zero leeway. If they're up more than just spontaneous and they stay up, kill the play, bench warning on this assistant. If he does it again, it's technical foul.
Right here in the middle.
It seemed like last year there was a point of emphasis on players after dunks, after layups. They'd scream, celebrate, they get a technical. There's a lot of confusion as to why those were called. Is that still something you guys are emphasizing this season?
Absolutely. And what we say is you can do all the cheering and celebrating with yourself or your teammate. At any point that it's directed at a defender or an opponent's bench, at the crowd, or it's something dramatic like you're patting yourself on the back like you did something better than anybody else could do, then they want to enforce. But spontaneous reaction, chest bumping your teammates or something after a good play, that's perfectly fine.
Any other questions? I think we got one on the back row.
Kendall Katsikum, 365. You mentioned rule changes will come next year. What are some rule changes you might like to see him address?
Well, what I talked about last year, and I've preached for the last 5 years, our block charge rule has to change. There's no way that we can referee the play, interpret the play, and really take in the spirit of the game and the quality of the players. And my example is, once I'm on a full board dribble, I've ended my dribble, I've made my last step, I'm starting up. Why should a secondary defender be able to jump in front of me at that point? I can't change what I'm doing at that point. The way our rule's written now, all a secondary defender has to do is be there for a split second before my toe leaves the ground. So it's a huge disadvantage for making a good offensive play. It rewards bad defense by a secondary defender making an ugly play. I think you're going to see that addressed. We continue to work on the traveling rule. It's really hard the way we play. We made a big mistake, in my opinion, of putting in the 3 exceptions last year. All of a sudden, step backs, spin moves, Euro steps, just ignore them. Well, those are all travels. So we either have to rewrite the rule book to make it where your plant foot is foot 0, you can always then go 1, 2, or we have to enforce what's written. We can't say these 3 are legal when they're not, and these others we're going to penalize. Defense doesn't know how to play. So I think those are the 2 biggest areas you're going to see addressed by the new Rules Committee and new national staff.
Got time for one more question. Front row over to the left.
Stan Weber, K-State Radio. Appreciate you spending the time. Love going over the rules, but you may not be able to comment, but we sat here preseason of football rules, and one of the giant emphasis was that players are going to have their pants over their knees, and they're the worst I've ever seen in history. They're wearing shorts, and no one's talking about it. With the penalty being so extreme, like a technical, are you worried at all that they're just not going to be able to make that call and affect the game that much?
Exactly the opposite, because what we've told them, we had our national meetings by Zoom a couple of weeks ago, what the new national coordinator said, if we're observing games, my regional observers are observing games, and you don't call it, you're going to get notified once. If you do it again, you're not eligible for the NCAA tournament. I'm going to tell our staff, whether you like or don't like it, whether I like or don't like it, I want it enforced from day one. And if you don't do it, I'm probably going to give you one warning. The second time, I'm going to pull you out of games. So when there's that kind of penalty, I think you'll see it enforced early and continue all the way through the season.
Okay, Curtis, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.